Hey, welcome back to the Hotel Orloff here in scenic Rural Retreat, Virginia. Going to look at some more magazines and comics as we wait for Donald Trump to speak tonight. So, it is Sunday night, possibly January 21st. I believe it is the 21st of January 2024. So, no further ado, let's continue looking at Mad Magazine. Okay. Well, Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the race. So, all right. It is pushing 5 o'clock in Rural Retreat, Virginia. We got some Mad Magazine to look at, some famous monsters, and some Silver Age comics, all of which I've probably shown you before, but I'll show them to you again. So, why not? Okay, so. Okay, where were we?
Ron DeSantis is retired. That name is no longer what President
We had gotten up to issue 100, I believe, of Mad. I don't know. Here's issue 101.
President Trump leading the polls. In this state, in the Granite State.
Hold on. It's the best way to make it. I gotta fix the light here. The lighting situation is never just quite right.
With the Trump team. Once again, this is Right Side Broadcasting Network. Always great to have this kind of footage that you just really don't get, especially the mainstream networks. They wouldn't want to cover something like this because obviously they have been hiding the truth for years. But now it's time for the truth to prevail. And we know the truth will set you free. All right, let's send it back to our coverage right now in Rochester. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's send it back to you. Hi, welcome back. We're here in Rochester.
So, yeah. How about that? Well, it warmed up into the 20s today here in Virginia. So, tomorrow it's going to get up to 33, so maybe a little bit of the snow will melt. Oh, man, this life. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Here's 101, Mad 101. (102) April 66. I'm pretty sure I showed you this last time. Problem is these fold-ins. So you can tell someone folded in the fold-in. I would always just kind of curl the paper enough that I could see what it was without permanently creasing the paper. But that most of the Mads after Al Jaffe started his fold-in. As opposed, let's put this camera somewhere else.
I want you to all reflect upon what happened prior to COVID. The economy was raging, fantastic.
Okay.
Interest rates were low. Food prices were under control. Oil prices for those of us in New Hampshire who heat with oil.
How's that? Here is the July 66 issue of Mad. Norman Mingo. I was telling you a little bit about Norman Mingo and how he was much older than the rest of the Mad staff. And in fact, he was a World War I veteran. He was in the Navy.
As most of you know, one of our
104.
dropped out.
Okay, and 105. We come up to September of 66, and the Batman craze is going on at this point. Batman started on television in January of '66, and this is September, so that means this actually came out in July of '66, about the time that the movie came out. The TV show started in January, and then there was a movie that came out that summer. It premiered in Austin, Texas. So there's footage on YouTube of the cast, Lee Merriweather, Cesar Romero, being interviewed by local Texas TV reporters. If you search for it, you can find it. This is October '66, number 106. Looks like I paid $5 for this. Actually, I would always get a discount at half-price books. So I got, it was cheaper than $5. Number 107, December '66. Wanted, new reader with a revolting sense of humor. No intelligence necessary. Apply within. They should put that on the covers of the modern comic books. Number 111. Okay, so I'm missing 108, 109, 110, 110. Listen to me. 110. This is 111, June '67. With Alfred E. Newman from Different Lands. Still not happy with that light, man. I think that light needs to be up higher is the problem. Hold on. I just remembered what I used to do with this light.
Thank you all for coming out on this cold January night.
That might be better.
God bless you all. God bless America. And may Trump win on Tuesday with record numbers.
If you're in New Hampshire, make sure you get out to the primary or caucus on Tuesday night, whatever you call it over there in New Hampshire. Vote for Trump. Okay. Another appearance of King Kong. 112. William Gaines, the publisher of Mad, had a King Kong fetish. He had, on the window in his office, he had a big giant King Kong head looking into his office. He was also really into Zeppelins, so he had Zeppelins hanging all around his office. And the Statue of Liberty was the other thing he collected. And in one of the Mad specials in the '60s, you could put together a Mad Zeppelin. I don't think I'm gonna. I've got 4 boxes of Mads. I'm not gonna get to all of those today. I'm gonna look at some other stuff. This is Mad 113. And 114 from October of '67. And yeah, you got Free Newman's a jester. You can see the audience. There's LBJ there on the left, giving him a thumbs down. 115. This is there were 2 types of rental cars, Avis and Hertz, and they were competing. And I think it was Hertz. I don't know, because this is a campaign from when I was 2 years old. But from what I've seen in commercials, you know, and these parodies and Mad, Hertz wasn't doing as well, so they said, we're number 2, so we have to try harder or something. In other words, we're number 2, but we're better. something like that. And so I think there was they must have had buttons that said "We try harder." So that's what that's a reference to. So you kind of need some explanation on that. Not so much with this. If you know anything about the 60s, take a trip with this issue of Mad. Of course, that's a reference to all the LSD craze. This is 67, January of 68, so you count back 2 months. December, this would have been out in November of 67, and that's just a few months after the Summer of Love and all that. Oh, another copy. I have 2 copies of that issue. Here's 117. Was that 116? Yeah. Here's 117. Yeah, DeSantis says has gotten out of the another copy of 117. He's gotten out of the race and is endorsing Trump. Okay, so another drug cover. 118, April 68, or reference to hippies, you know. Ooh, it looks like Half Price Books tried to sell this for $15. I guess I can see that because it's a pretty, it's a pretty amazing cover. Turn on, tune in, drop dead. This is the kind of thing Half Price Books does. Well, we don't have magazine boards, so we just put a comic board in there. April 68. I got to rebag these things. I got to get real bad. I need magazine bags and boards. Maybe I'll order those from Gotham City Comics when I get some. I mean, I could order them from Amazon, but I'd rather order stuff from Gotham City Comics in Mesa, Arizona. My local comic store, even though they're on the other side of the country, I consider them to be a local comic store that's a few blocks away from me because, I don't know, it's a store that's very close to my heart because he carries all the good stuff. And he's not just a comic store, he's a monster store and a magic store and all that's wonderful in life. Here's a Bonnie and Clyde parody. June of 68. Bonnie and Clyde was a pretty gory movie, and it, along with, well, Bonnie and Clyde was one of the things that kind of pushed it, and then there was more nudity in movies because there had been, the 1920s movies were pretty wild in the silent movie era and before. And then in 1933, they brought in the Hays Code and movies were cleaned up, just kind of like comic books were cleaned up in 1955 with the Comics Code Authority. So movies were pretty clean for decades, but in the late 60s, movies started to get pretty extreme. So they brought in a rating system of G, GP, R, and X. And that must have been about 1970, maybe beginning of 1970. Am I right? This Midnight Cowboy came out with Dustin Hoffman and Jon Voight, and that won the Best Picture. And everybody's talking, even though that was a song that pre-existed before the movie, became a huge hit and it became known as the theme to Midnight Cowboy. Anyway, now. Later, GP changed to PG. Then it was GPGR, and then they did away with the X rating because that became kind of meaningless as the other industry kind of took over that. And then later, in the 80s, mid 80s, they brought in PG-13, and then later they brought in NC-17 for movies like Showgirls and. Seems like there was some movie about Henry Miller that was in NC-17. But NC-17 movies were a pain for the movie theater because they had to make sure they had some teenager there at the door, making sure that you had the ticket to go into that theater, that you were not under 18. You hadn't just skipped from another theater into there. PG-13 came along because of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Gremlins, and Poltergeist were PG rated, and people thought, well, I thought I was going into a family-friendly movie, and then I see someone pulling their face off, or someone getting their heart ripped out in flames, and so they made another rating between PG and R. And now every movie that comes out is PG-13. Okay, so 120. Bonnie and Clyde was a great movie. Although there were people that were not too crazy about it because they thought it glamorized the actual real-life killers. And in 1967, it was only 30 years, really, maybe 30, a few more years, 35 years since Bonnie and Clyde were actually going around the country doing their thing. And there are a lot of people that were survivors that were new people or family members that were killed by Bonnie and Clyde because they were mad dog killers. And you know, and then you hire these two glamorous movie stars to play them. In reality, they weren't very photogenic in real life. And they turned it into this love story and everything, and that upset people, as you can imagine. But it's still a great movie. Yeah. Oh, Wild Bunch was another movie that came out. Was that 1969 or 1970? That was a Sam Peckinpah movie. That was ultra gory at the end, and that might have been right after the rating system came in. Anyway, didn't I just show you this? Oh, that's because I have two copies. Yeah, over the years, I've accidentally acquired more than one copy of certain issues. And here is a number 121, September 68. And this is a great one where Alfred E. Newman is the Maharishi. And you see the Beatles and Mia Farrow. And that's great. That's a great cover. So far we've seen 3 hippie-related covers. Sick magazine, they went all out. It had hippie covers on almost every issue. Either that or Tiny Tim was on the cover. This is almost identical to I already took the cracked magazines upstairs, but I showed you a cracked magazine cover with the balloons, with the candidates on it, and it was almost identical to this one. Very similar. Okay, Goodrich had a commercial apparently with a giant girl. I need to look that up on YouTube and see if I can find that. And so here they're implying that she's had a baby with the Jolly Green Giant. So I need to look up the Goodrich Girl Giant from B.F. Goodrich. That's one way that you kind of, even though I was born in 65, and my memories are mainly of the very late 60s and the 1970s, you kind of feel like you were there reading Mad and Cracked because they give you such a sense of what pop culture was like that you know what the commercials were that were on television. You know what the popular shows were and everything. Here is 123, December 68. This copy of Mad is number 1,376,485 in a series of 2,148,000. Collect them all.
Go to Vada and talk about that. Because, guys in the studio, do we have the segment I did with Christina Bob laying out all of the details on Nevada? If you guys could re-rack that for me, I'm going to talk
what is this here?
Because I did get some
It's a parody of Camelot.
questions on that. Christina Bob and I,
They did a lot of parodies of Charlie Brown and the Peanuts Gang and Mad.
we got a lot of emails from viewers with some
In fact, they even have a cover.
we talked about it there.
This is the Adventures of the Red Baron, or Happiness ist ein klein kaputt Beagle. So it's a comic strip from the other side about the Red Baron fighting Snoopy. Kind of like that cool DC comic Enemy Ace, which you should know about. And if you don't, trust me, Enemy Ace from DC is great. But Charles Schulz really enjoyed. He wrote a letter or something. I can't remember, but he was pleased with what Mad did. He was gave it a thumbs up, which shows that Charles Schulz was a good guy with a good sense of humor. So that's a good thing, because you want your childhood idols to be good people. You don't want to hear bad stories about, Stan Lee hosting big events for Hillary Clinton and stuff. You don't want to know about that. You don't want to know about Forrest J. Ackerman putting out, in the Heidi Saha magazine. You just kind of want to, I don't really want to, let's pretend that didn't happen, because I like the guy. Here's 124, Rosemary's Baby. January 69. Yeah, movies like Rosemary's Baby would be another example of why you needed a rating system. That movie is something. It really is. It's really great in the paranoia. It's kind of the way things are now. She realizes she can't trust her neighbors, she can't trust her doctor, she can't trust her husband. They're all in on it. They're all in on her, bringing this devil baby to term. They're all Satan worshipers, everybody, and it's kind of like the 2024. It's like you can't. Who can you trust? These weird people, man. This is Doc's Records. One of the mads I got from Doc's Records. I have several copies of it, but the board they put behind it is what is that? I gotta open this up and see. I got a lot of mads at Doc's Records one time, like a whole pile of them. Ugh. This has got some brownage down there. It's a Hitler cigarette ad. Oh my gosh. Look at this. Look at the text here. I'm not even going to say that out loud. No wonder my mom was like, "You're not buying those magazines." It's like, "Mom, can I buy this?" And she flips through it and sees things like that, and it's like, "Oh no, you're not buying." It's horrible, just the image of you imagine you're on a bus reading this magazine. Just the sight of it, you can see that from the other side of the bus. It's like, man. Look what they did. They took a record album cover and they used it as a backing board because they had so many records, in that record store. My gosh. Well, I have another copy. Hopefully it's not as brown around the edges. All those mads I got from Doc's Records, from that particular dealer in that little antique mall section they got, were had seen their better days, were stored somewhere hot. This is another this one I got for $5 from Duncanville Books, and you can tell it's in better shape. It's marked 10, but it was half price. Oh, this is a classic issue, number 126. It's a parody of the James Montgomery flag, and it says James Montgomery Mingo. There were a lot of these comic strip parodies that were well done. That's something that went back to the early days of Mad when it was a color comic. They did a lot of ingenious, wonderful comic book parodies in those early.
If you want to be a part of the crowd that show up at your precinct, it's from 5 to 7 p.m. on February 8th.
Hippie standing there, and the police are chasing this crowd, and Hippie's still standing there. This policeman looks back and goes back and hits him, and then has to catch up. I don't know. This is a musical. Is that what this? No, it's just a poem about Hugh Hefner versus Helen Gurley Brown. Helen Gurley Brown was the feminist that that changed Cosmopolitan magazine into kind of a adult magazine for women. It's a parody of Family Affair. Yes, indeed.
Back out here live, I was just off camera talking to someone.
Yes, indeed. 126, April 69. That would have been my 4th birthday.
The J6ers that are being locked up or have been locked up, and she told me the story about her nephew that had just gotten out.
Okay, that was 120. Here's 127. I was looking at the months and I was thinking, this is too. Mad came out every 2 months. So that last issue was April. This one is June. Cracked came out every month. So Cracked had new issues more often than Mad. And sometimes people waiting impatiently for the next issue of Mad would be forced to buy Cracked, which was considered inferior. And I guess it didn't feel inferior. It wasn't as.
And getting 5 years. Let me step aside as the crowd.
It wasn't as cutting edge as Mad.
Shooting for a hype video.
It was a little bit, but it was still really good, and the art was really good and Cracked.
It just makes you think.
But right about this time, around 1970, a new magazine premiered, and that was called National Lampoon, and that was a step up from Mad, and it had all of the brilliance. The parodies were just as beautifully crafted, and when they did a parody of a certain magazine, it looked just like that magazine. If they did a parody of Batman, they got Neil Adams in there to draw it. They made it look real. But it was more adult and more hard-edged. The National Lampoon staff were. It was a very mean style of humor, and I loved it, but it wasn't to everyone's taste. Number 128, July 69.
Lay out all the accomplishments of President Trump, and it's not going to hold back. It's going to tell you what he did, let your kids know what he did, and also makes for a great gift for someone in your life.
Another. Man, this is not in very good shape. I really should upgrade this. 129, September 69, The Generation Gap.
That is definitely something you want to give to someone in your family, your church, your school. Go check it out. They're free. TrumpBook.com. It's 6:12 here, and this is one of those.
Al Jaffe. Oh, you are so great.
Waiting for the president to make some remarks.
Yep, The Generation Gap. Right. 129.
Of Matthew Alvarez on the ground with the president at the campaign headquarters, one of the locations here in New Hampshire.
It was so exciting when you went into a used bookstore or somewhere and you saw old issues of Mad from this era. When I was a kid in the 70s, it was just. I can't explain how magical it was. Here's number 130. I pity the people that grew up not loving Mad and all that. Man, that's. Is that Jack Palance? Back then there were a bunch of people hijacking airplanes to go to Cuba. It says, I'm Fidel Castro, And this is my latest hijacked U.S. airliner. When you get 'em, flaunt 'em. That looks like they got Jack Palance there to be Fidel Castro. I need to research that. That looks exactly like Jack Palance. I don't know, maybe not. Another reference to the Times, 131 December 69, back to college issue. What we have next? Christmas issue. Okay. I'm going to look in here and see if this has that Christmas subscription ad that I was talking about earlier. Because every Christmas it seemed like they had this great ad, and whenever I think of Christmas, this ad flashes in my mind. It's being one of the wonderful things about Christmas. You know, Rudolph and the Grinch and all that, but there was also this mad ad. Please be there. There it is. Flaunted by the ghost of Christmas presents. Lift your spirits by giving gift subscriptions to MAD. I need to make this into a poster and put it on the wall every Christmas, because now oh man. And they had another hardcover book that came out around this time. I have it, not in the best condition. They had paperbacks that came out, but they also put out, I think, at least 4 big coffee table books in the 60s. And Don Martin, man.
7 o'clock, President Trump is scheduled to start his speech here. I do think, obviously, he is going to be met with a very energetic crowd. We've said that
There's Don Martin with like a Godzilla type monster.
every time we're here in this state. Also, some of the things it's to note.
I'm glad I found that Christmas ad. It's 132.
Joe Biden, the year that he got 81 million votes, finished 5th in the primary here. Now, what's also entering
130.
is how quickly some of the other
31.
candidates in that race just suddenly got
32.
overwhelmed by the
Okay.
amount of media buys that Joe Biden had. I think Joe Biden.
March 70, 133. MAD no longer contains cyclamates or MSG, monosodium glutamate, only pure, unadulterated, fat-free humor. Cyclamates was some big scandal around that time. What was really bad was something called thalidomide that they gave to pregnant women, and it caused their babies to be born with no arms and legs and things. I remember seeing some people that were about my age that were born that way, and that was a horrible thing. That, thanks to the wonderful people in charge. This is April 70. This, I guess, would be my 5th birthday. I have 3 copies of it. And then we come to 136, July 70. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is Butch Casually and the Some Dunce Kid. And that brings us to the end of box number 1 of MAD. So the next box is going to have all the 1970s stuff, and we can go back on another trip through the 1970s like we did with Cracked. I don't know if I want to do that right now because I have had requests to show Famous Monsters. Let's look at this. I want to look at some comic books. Oh, here's Batman number 5. Fake reproduction. It's the first Batman book in this box. There's I think isn't there a reprint of, there's a facsimile of Batman number 1 that must still be in my hold pile at Gotham City Comics in Mesa, Arizona. Call them. They're a wonderful group of people. Talk to Kevin Johnson, the owner, when you call, and he'll hook you up with great comics and monster collectibles. Gotham City Comics, Mesa, Arizona. But I think he has a Batman #1 on hold for me, and I will get that soon. This is looks like my oldest Batman, 10-cent Batman, Batman 127, the Hammer of Thor. Before the Marvel Thor, this was the Thor from National, which is the real name of DC. I love the Batmans from this time period. Far more than I just love this time period. I don't like the dark stuff. I like this era. Batwoman's being spun around.
One of the things that we hear a lot about on the campaign trail, and obviously President Trump talks about it, is the fact that
142, Batman.
We did not get into any.
This looks like, yeah, 142. Okay, so that we're getting to the end of the 10-cent era. So they make 10 cent really big, and then when they convert to 12 cents, it'll be real big to help the dealers, the newsstand, understand, hey, it's no longer 10 cents, because they've been 10 cents since the mid-1930s, and it was a long time. So look at this great cover. I bought this at Lone Star Comics years ago, now called mycomicshop.com. If you look here, look below the DC in pencil. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little F. And that would mean fine. This is in fine condition. That's how they rated it. There was good, there was fine. This one's hard to tell. Because of the way there's stone steps on this pyramid type of thing, it's hard to tell what's part of the pyramid and what's, they call them spine ticks. Color-breaking spine ticks. Some of those are color-breaking spine ticks, and some of them are actually part of the artwork. But anyway, it's this is something I could afford back when I was late 70s, early 80s when I bought this. This was affordable. I don't know if it would be now. That was 142. Here's 147. Okay, at this point it's become 12 cents. It's still a big deal that we've converted to 12 cents. Here's a coverless Batman. 151, November of 62. Perfectly readable. Of course, you'd rather have the cover. There's a house ad for the Atom. But it's still great, fun reading. The problem with these omnibuses, apparently the plural is omnibus. The plural of omnibus is omnibus, not omnibi or omnibuses. But anyway, problem with them is they don't have the ads, and the ads are half the fun in old comics. Here is 152, the False Face Society.
President Biden has taken a stance, obviously, in support of.
There's another coverless one. This one being 157, August of 63.
they're supporting their efforts and have been
Civil War
to
soldiers.
cease fire and to basically decide that they would,
It's just
seems like every other week in
so
the
much fun.
somewhere in the nation's capital. They call him Genocide Joe Muscati Go.
There's
All of the sound bites you're getting out of these movements is the fact that they do not plan on
this
supporting
these guys, cartoonist kayfabe. They have a big channel on YouTube. One of them, they both do different things. One of them does this super gory comic book. I forget its name, and I think he did a history of rap music. Well, I don't know which one of them's doing it, but apparently I was told by Meyer Greenblatt they have some book coming out about 1986, the greatest year in comic book history. And I said, what was so great about 1986? And he says, I don't know. But he sent me the link to it, because these are younger guys, and it's like 1986, to me, that was like everything kind of had gotten flat in the 80s. But apparently what they're referring to is The Dark Knight and Watchmen and things like that, which I have to admit at the time, those were pretty impressive works. Ultimately, though, I look at them in retrospect with the damage they did to things I love more than I do with fondness for how great they were, because they convinced movie makers and a lot of comic fans that all these characters need to be super dark and violent, and you know, that's why this what's his face, Matt Snyder, whatever his name is, that's why he, you know, makes a Superman movie where he never smiles, and Batman and Superman movie where they, of course, are fighting to the death. I prefer Ace the Super Bat Hound. This is my world. This is my Batman. So if you prefer Batman to just be dark and brooding all the time and no Robin, that's fine. You know, I'm not judging you. You're an okay person. But is this the same one without a cover? Let me see here. 158, September 63. Yes. I also have the same comic without a cover. Yeah. Okay. So, I'll show you something. Okay, so in 158, you see on the cover, the bat on Batman's chest is just a black bat with a gray background. In 1965, they start a change in the Batman artwork. Even though Bob Kane is still probably signing his name, he never drew anything. He was a complete fraud. But anyway, at 1965, they go for this new look for Batman, and they make the stories more detective stories and less of the silliness, the monsters and dragons and things that you've been looking at, and Batman going to other planets. And the way you can tell, the new look is the yellow oval around the bat. That started in 65. So it was a new, more serious direction for Batman. Then the TV show started. They used the yellow bat around, they used the yellow oval, but the show was silly like Batman had traditionally been and for many years in the comic. And so the comic reverted back to match the TV show. So this dark, not dark, but this more mature, which was still happening here, in Batman issue number, completely unreadable, 170 something, because it's hard to read there. Anyway, okay, it looks like this is a fake one coming up. Yeah, we got a fake Batman comic, but that's all right, because I can't afford the original. It's the first appearance of Poison Ivy. who was almost on the TV show. And it looks like I accidentally have 2 copies of it. That's when I have 2 copies or 3 or 4 copies, like some of those Mads, it's always an accident. Now, some of those Mads I showed you with the brown around the edge, I'd like to upgrade them and not. But usually it's an accident. It's not on purpose. I'd rather, let other people have a chance to get books instead of buying up everything on the market. But it's just an opinion on 182, an 80-page giant. Great stuff. Anyway, Poison Ivy was almost on the Batman show. Leslie Gore, the singer, was going to play Poison Ivy, but last minute they decided to make her, instead of Poison Ivy teaming up with Catwoman, they made Poison Ivy the teenage protege of Catwoman and made her, I don't know, I can't remember if her name was Miss Kitty or whatever, but she had little cat ears and a little pink outfit, and she sang the song California Nights. And great episode, but she could have been Poison Ivy. It just didn't happen. And I think there was almost a Two-Face episode that Harlan Ellison was going to write that never happened until just a couple of years ago. There was an animated cartoon with Adam West and Burt Ward, and they got William Shatner to play Two-Face. But anyway, here are Batman and Robin watching the Batman TV show in the Batcave. So the TV show is definitely but look at that. He doesn't have the oval on his chest. That's interesting. Oh well. Okay, so Trump's going to speak at 6. That's about half an hour from now. This is 185. These 80-page giants are amazing. Whenever you see one, you need to get it. Is this the same one? Yeah, here's another one in piss poor condition. Well, it doesn't have a back cover. At least it has the front cover. This is that same one, and it's a thick comic, like comics used to be in the Golden Age. And it's just so much fun to, this is why the TV show had big props. I mean, the TV show is recreating the comic. And I'm pretty sure that when they were doing when they were creating the TV show, they got reprints or older comics. They weren't getting the ones that were on the stands at that moment and used them as reference for the tone of the show. Originally, the Batman TV series was intended to be a comedy with a laugh track, and luckily they decided to not go with the laugh track. But the reason William Dozier had the idea to do Batman was because he was hanging out at the Playboy Mansion, and Hugh Hefner, being a comic fan and a fan of old movie serials, was running one of the 2 Batman movie serials from the 1940s on his projection system, and everybody was laughing and having a good time with the old serial. And he thought, well, if I could do that today, and with the pop art craze and everything, and it was a good instinct. He made millions with that. Here's 187 in good condition. Some kid drew on the end. That's just the way it is. These comics were made for kids. They're going to sometimes have the signs of kids owning them. I'm not going to take the cover off and try to soak it to get rid of that. Some things are more obnoxious than others. I don't mind that little show of love from some little 7-year-old that owned this comic at one time. Here is another great issue. I think I got that one from Gotham City Comics. Here's I'm off work tomorrow, so I might have an episode tomorrow, but then there won't be any shows until next weekend, more than likely. 192. Infantino and Anderson cover. At least it's not Bob Kane's signature on everything anymore. Here is a giant Batman with no cover. This has got the Batman from south of the border, the Bat Hombre. Batman's got a from South America. Look at that. Batman had a bat horse. I think that's great. The horse has a cowl and mask, and so does the dog to disguise their identity. This stuff's brilliant. See, Batman with the mustache. That's the Bat Hombre. It kind of looks a little like Zorro, which is interesting because Batman is about one half Zorro, one half Shadow. The Shadow. A lot of elements were taken from Zorro when Batman was created, as far as the having a cave and riding out from his cave on his horse, his horse, and dressed in, and being a foppish millionaire, but that pretending to be like this playboy, but in reality is this guy out crusading. Comes from Zorro. This is from 1967. I see it's still got the Bob Kane signature. That Bob Kane didn't really do much, really, in the history of Batman, but this one's a pretty classic, very classic cover. 197 with Catwoman fighting Batgirl. Batgirl first premiered in Detective Comics, which I could show you. I don't know if did I pull that box? Yeah, I could probably show you that. We're not even to an hour yet. We're up to Batman 201. I thought I had Batman 200. I apparently don't. Wonder what Batman 200, did it have a cool cover? I bet it did. 202 is another 80-page giant. I'm going to look up what Batman 200 looked like. Batman 205. I'm sorry, I showed all these books before, but I don't have any new books to show you. I can't manifest things. I don't have money to buy comics. Occasionally, I'll get a new amount of stuff from Gotham City Comics in Mesa, Arizona. But other than that, I'm showing you old stuff that I've had for years. That's 208. .210. Looks like Trump's going to give his speech tonight in a really cool opera house. It looks like an old-time movie theater. That's Catwoman's look that she had into the 1970s. And when they made the Mego doll, I guess I should say action figure, she looked more like that. This is 211. They're trying to, Batman was real hot on television, but it was real hot and then it kind of flared out, and it really only lasted 2 years. It had 3 seasons, but it's kind of weird because it started in January. So the first season was started in January instead of September. So then the second season and third season, it was no longer an hour a week. They had 2 episodes a week, so it was a 2-part episode. One was on Wednesday and one was on Thursday. I could be wrong. Or maybe one was on Tuesday, one was on Wednesday. But anyway, that's why they always say, tune in tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. It was a 2-parter. The third season, when they premiered Batgirl, it was just 1 episode a week. And that's when it failed. I think another network was wanting to buy to take over and do a fourth season of Batman. But then they found out they'd already destroyed the Bat Cave set, and then they said, oh, we don't want to rebuild that. So that's what happened to Batman. Here's Batman 218, another giant size issue. Oh. Okay, we're getting to the Neil Adams years. Neil Adams came along with these really dynamic drawings and angles, and started kind of a new era. 221. 230. But even when I was buying these in the late 70s, these were already hot comics. You know, Neil Adams was hot from the beginning, and so I don't have a lot of them. These are what you're looking at are from before, when I was buying comics. I didn't start buying Batman until the early 70s. This one, though, I had as a kid, and I don't know what happened to it, but I bought this one later. It's not in very good shape, but this is a big deal. This issue is a pretty big deal. And in the shape, I don't know, but it's not in very good shape. But it's sort of the first Two-Face. Yeah, it's sort of the first Two-Face, but there was a Two-Face of the Silver Age. But there was an issue, I think it was World's Finest, where there was a Two-Face character, but it wasn't the actual Two-Face. Oh, man. This is a really beat-up giant Batman annual. Terrible. This is, why do I have these in the middle of my Batman comic? This is weird. I don't know why they're here in this spot. I don't know. Oh, because that was the end. I have only Silver Age in these boxes. So the next Batman comics are in different boxes. So I have these afterwards because I have the Batman run, then I have the Batman annuals after that. So all the Batman comics after this must be 20 cents and up, and so they'd be in separate boxes. They'd be Bronze Age and up. And so I've got a bunch of these Batman annuals. Here's number 7. Oh, okay, then we move into Blackhawk. And I know you'll laugh, but my oldest Blackhawk is 153. I wish I had more Blackhawks, but I never really saw them. You don't see Blackhawk in comic stores. At least I never did. Wait, that was 153. This is 151, so it's out of order. There's a coverless Blackhawk. You don't want to see that. Here's a Blackhawk 206, which is all destroyed at the bottom. These ones where they're forcing people to dig their own graves are pretty twisted. There's one where Batman and Superman are forcing Jimmy Olsen and Robin to dig their own graves. And I think it's a World's Finest. That one's something else too. 215. I like how it's got this giant 4 cents. So at some point in a garage sale, someone was selling this for 4 cents. 219, a great comic. I just don't have enough of them. Mucho new, very bueno. Well, it's gotten dark outside. Here's a Blackhawk 228. It says, "Begin it here, the new Blackhawk era," and they've got the Justice League on the cover. They're always trying to reinvent the Blackhawks. You're still in time for the new Blackhawk era. There's a big chunk gone at the bottom.
And I go to court tomorrow. This is all planned. And they want to rush it. But I said,
Nice cover on this one. 236. Melt, Mutant Melt.
And the truth is, I don't believe we're up numbers that nobody's ever been up. I really believe that.
Oh, this is nice. 239. This is a very golden age looking cover. Very good.
And Joe Biden, who maybe doesn't even know what's happening, because he's surrounded by communists.
Another nice cover, 241.
He's got a woman running the Department of Justice. Lisa Monaco, I think she's really running it. She's friends with
243. Another very innovative cover. Looks like we're moving into Brave and the Bold territory. Here's my copy of Brave and the Bold 28, except it's fake. It's a facsimile. DC no longer puts the UPC code on the front. They put it on the back. This is one of the early facsimiles. My first real Brave and the Bold is number 55, Metal Men Meeting the Atom. I always loved the Metal Men. And here's number 60 with a very early Teen Titans appearance.
I love you all. Thank you very much.
Look at Wonder Girl, man. She looks like she is stoned. It's Fentanyl Girl. Aqualad's got a really big head, too. The floating head thing, Captain Strangelove was talking on his show, latest show, that, you know, he doesn't really like the floating heads. And he says, some people like them. Like, I love them. But, you know, I understand. You know why I love the floating heads? I think one of the reasons is when I was like 4 or 5, I would watch my older brothers reading Justice League, especially my oldest brother, and he'd have these Justice Leagues in his bedroom by his bed, and they had the floating heads because it was around 1970 probably, and they did a lot of floating heads on the side with, and usually the floating heads indicated it was the summer issue where the Justice League meets the Justice Society, and you had all the heads of them on either side. And I thought that was so cool, and I still think it's cool. Sometimes it's just a matter of what makes an impression on you at what age, and that, then therefore it's really cool to you for all time because it was cool when you were 5. And, you know, but I love floating heads, yes. This is Starman and Black Canary, Brave and the Bold, number, I think that says 61. Beautiful comic that I got at Lone Star Comics, real cheap. The Brave and the Bold at that time, they were kind of trying to introduce kids to the old Justice Society characters that their fathers had read when in the 40s, and they're trying to bring the characters back. This is 62, another great cover. I think I have 2 copies of this one. Yeah, because these were very cheap. Now, this one's got a little scribble on it. Do you see the scribble there? Oh well. What is this one? By the 70s, when I started reading Brave and the Bold, it was pretty much just a Batman teamed up with whoever. And this issue is number 64, but someone wrote number 15 on it. I think I know why. This is from the Tex Watson collection, Pedigree. This one I got from Gotham City Comics, and you know, I was aware the writing was on it, but I said, no, I want that because I want to read that story. I've never seen that comic, and Batman and Eclipso. I think what happened is some kid had a collection of comics and he numbered them. And, you know, this one was number 15 in his collection. And maybe he lent the comics out to his friends and he inventoried them. It's like, oh, you have number 15. And that way he could easily remember who had each comic. I'm guessing, because it doesn't make any other sense to have number 15 written on a comic that is not number 15. This is a comic, it says 14, I think I got it for 7, because the red dot, very nice looking. Brave and the Bold, 65. I don't think this isn't Mylar. I don't know what it is, the shiny plastic. Maybe it is Mylar, but the Duncanville Books near Dallas would have their books out in these. They just look so nice. They put them in this kind of sleeve. This is Flash and the Doom Patrol, two of my favorite comics from DC. Look at that, man. From the LBJ age, formerly known as the Silver Age. This is a beat-up copy of number 74, Batman and the Metal Men. So during the Batman craze, when the TV show was on, that's why I think Batman was put in all the Brave and the Bolds, and then he just kind of became a tradition. Batman is a Brave and the Bold comic. So, because Batman was so popular, you had Batman, you had Detective Comics, you had Brave and the Bold, you had Justice League of America. I don't like calling it Justice League. It's the Justice League of America. And what else was Batman in? But anyway, that was the way it was, and it was not as bad as what Marvel did in the 90s with, like, how many X-Men titles did they have? Probably seemed like 50. It's another copy in not so good shape of the same book. Here is Batman and Wonder Woman guest starring Batgirl, number 78. This is a beautiful Neil Adams cover, number 80, Batman and the Creeper. Batman and the Flash, number 81. Number 83, Batman and the Teen Titans. This one I got from Gotham City Comics. Batman and Sergeant Rock, number 84. Someone with a comic book room that has a comic wall should just put a whole bunch of these comics where people are holding their dead or injured friend like that. What is the classical piece? It's in the classical, that's all, that pose is, you know, you see it on Crisis on Infinite Earths where Superman's holding Supergirl. You see it on the early 80s X-Men. Originally it was it the Virgin Mary holding Jesus? Something like that. And it's a classical statue that they're basing all that on. 88, Batman and the Wildcat. 90, not in very good shape, but at least you can read it. Batman and Adam Strange. You only die twice. So that would be a reference to You Only Live Twice, the James Bond movie that would have been out about that time. Number 91, we're Okay, we're in the 15-cent era, so we're in the Nixon age of comics, the early Nixon age of comics. Batman and Black Canary there.
We can control our energy policy here in the United States and in the world.
Batman and introducing the Bat Squad. I don't know if the Bat Squad was ever... Whatever happened to the Bat Squad? I don't know. Batman and Sergeant Rock.
January of 2025, the Trump tax code sunsets, so whoever's in charge
Sergeant Rock looks a little like our man Flint there.
in January 2025 writes the new tax codes.
Okay, so now we're getting towards the end of the Silver Age or early Nixon age, because DC has decided to go up to 25 cents. Batman and Wildcat with a thicker page count like the way comics had been in the 50s, and they were this way for a while. Here's Batman and Phantom Stranger, got a chunk missing out of it, 98. It's all right, still readable. Here is another 25-cent issue with the Flash. Oh, I got 2 copies of that. Is that correct? Yeah, apparently. And then the spectacular 100th issue. Those were 48 pages. Now they go to 52 pages for a quarter. Batman and 4 famous co-stars, which are on the side. This is not floating heads, but it's floating bodies. You've got Green Lantern, Black Canary, Robin, and Green Arrow. Floating bodies, that doesn't sound right. Sounds like something horrible. Batman and Metamorpho, 101.
Yeah, I started out, I gave back to my community, you know, I did the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors.
And I guess that's the last Silver Age. I consider Silver Age to end when the 20-cent era starts. So when the 20-cent era starts, that's also called the late Nixon age. That's my personal, that's just only me. No one else has done it. If you want to start identifying comics by who was president when they came out, you can start doing it, and we can start a new trend. Other than that, it's just going to be me doing it. Okay, and then we come to what the Monster Times said is one of the worst comics ever, but I think it's one of the wonderful. Brother Power the Geek. Here is the real-life scene of the dangers in hippie land. This is, you know, some of the old guys, Joe Simon, trying to be hip and make a comic that hippies can read. These patriotic hippies. It's a great comic. There is some great artwork in here. It's really psychedelic. It'll blow your mind, man. Is this the one that has all that? It has to be this one. Let me see. Oh yes. Look at that, man. Can you believe it? Look at that guy in the middle. That's right out of the ugly stickers. A couple of them are right out of there. Where's the bag for this? Really? I need this in a better bag and board. Brother Power the Geek, #1. And it didn't last long. Here's Brother Power the Geek, #2. And that's the whole run. That's the complete run of that. Here's Captain Action #1. This is a toy tie-in with the Captain Action doll that you could change his outfit and his head and turn him into all kinds of superheroes. Here is I guess you'd call it a facsimile of Captain America 109. This was from the 90s. JCPenney sold these fake Marvel comics. The covers are indistinguishable from the original comic, but it has modern 1990s ads in it. Other than that, it's the 60s comic. So this would be 112 is my oldest Nixon age, Silver Age Captain America. Great cover. Of course, the older Captain America comics would be Tales of Suspense, but Tales of Suspense changed its numbering. The Tales of